I just pressed the let's go live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet on this lovely, lovely Friday. And it's a brand new month Friday, and we love that brand new month smell. We get a nice fresh start, and it's a Friday with a nice long weekend ahead, so that's all very good news. And we're grateful that you are here and with us. Are the tubes working? It is. So that means we can go ahead and get started. Let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving the police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Georgia. We've got Donald Trump, who filed a motion to sever, and we also have a new filing from Mark Meadows, and this is really getting pretty interesting here. We've got kind of two cases happening in parallel, all related to the same underlying facts. And so today we're going to go through a bunch of stuff. We've got Trump filing the motion to sever, not a long filing, just a short 2 pages, I believe. And so we'll take a quick look at it and see exactly what is inside. Remember, there were 19 total co-defendants. We've got several of them have filed for speedy trials. Several more of them are federal officials who are going to be claiming that their case should be removed. And one of those co-defendants is Mark Meadows, this guy right here. We're going to be reading through his response to removal. And we had a very important court proceeding on this earlier this week. And now the judge asked for supplemental briefs from both sides. Big Fanny submitted one, and we're going to see what Mark Meadows said in response to Big Fanny, because she really didn't like the question that the judge was asking. And she just said, no, it's all about what we want the question to be. And so Mark Meadows filed his response, and we'll see what the judge ultimately does, and we'll probably get a ruling on that sometime next week. So we'll see. Then I want to turn our attention over to what's happening in Georgia. Remember, something we've talked about here, or somebody, is Senator Colton Moore, state senator out of Georgia, and he has said that they were going to be working on this special session to try to defund Big Fanny Willis, the biggest DA in Georgia. That's why she's the Big Fanny. And she would not have power anymore if this special session was called in and they voted to, remove her from this and call it a jurisdictional problem or a funding problem or whatever. But Kemp says no. He says, we're very happy with our decisions in 2020. And so we'll go take a look at that. We've also got a clip from Bill Barr. He's still doing this thing where he's saying it's not election interference. And then I got this clip of Andrew Weissman. We know him over from MSNBC. And he's got an interesting, take. He's got, several talking points he regularly uses. And he has this one about Trump not wanting cameras in the courtroom, which is why they're trying to have this case removed. And I'm thinking to myself, this is very strange. I'm like, have you seen Trump's photos here? Like, he loves this stuff. Are you nuts? Are you out of your mind? He doesn't want cameras around? Give me a break, all right? He's like holding up the mugshot in his videos. And my question is, if the government are the people who want this all exposed and they want to share with us all of the horrendous activities of Trump, well, why is everything being filed under seal? Okay, this is a screenshot from the Florida docket where there's classified documents, so maybe it's about the classified documents or whatever. But there's stuff filed under seal all the time, and they have massive protective orders, so nobody can talk about anything, and there's about 1.5 trillion pages of documents, so it's just, we can't see anything. And so I don't think that it's Trump who's trying to keep this stuff sealed. So Andrew Weissman, I think, is wrong. We've also got a clip from Trump. He says, I hope Republicans are paying attention, and I certainly hope so too. We'll get into all of that to get us started. And then we've got a dismissal in the House. Donald Trump successful, and his case, the case against him, is dismissed. And we've talked about this one previously. Remember that we had the lawsuit brought by Florida man who said that Trump should not be on the ballot in 2024 because of insurrection. And the insurrection was so bad that it's self-executing, and Lawrence Tribe and some other idiot judge out there called Ludwig, who's like a Luddite, and he is saying that this is all a new part of the Constitution that they just found. They woke up and bumped their heads together, and then suddenly this came out at the other end. And so he filed a lawsuit to say Trump needed to go away. The courts came back and dismissed it, and they just dismissed it right away. And it was very interesting and enjoyable. So we'll take a look at it. Now, as we talked about, the first time that we had this conversation when we read through the lawsuit originally, we know that this is just the first draft, okay? They're just warming up on this one. They're just kind of cracking their knuckles. And this guy just filed a lawsuit. They're seeing what the courts do with it. But this is something that is a real theory. We know that Asa Hutchinson is talking about it and others. So we'll keep our eye on it. Another place that is going to be a very focused area of attention is Arizona. We know that that's so-called, apparently, we're a swing state now. Because we have fair elections here too. Did you know that? It's pretty incredible. So we also know that they're going to be trying shenanigans here. We've got a psychopath governor who, is trying her best out there. And she and others are going to be not able to bar Trump, allegedly. We'll see. So there's a new report on that. We'll go through it all. Then I want to jump into this article because the Biden people are apparently launching a war room to stop the Republican impeachment attacks, which is a curious thing because I don't even know that there's a Republican impeachment war room in the first place. Like, are the Republicans doing any impeaching that requires a responsive war room? Well, I don't know. What's everybody doing over there? I don't. There's not much impeaching going on. I don't think there's going to be much of it happening anytime soon. But nonetheless, the Bidens are preparing a war room, and they've got dozens of lawyers. They don't play around with this stuff because they actually want to win and secure power and obliterate their opponents. So they're taking it very seriously. While I think the Republicans are, some of them are working hard. People like James Comer, Nancy Mace, I think, is on it. But then we've got the other people who are at the top of the leadership, like old Kev over here, who's very proud of himself. All right, we're going to play this clip. We're doing a great job. We're saving America one day at a time. Most transparent Congress ever. So we'll see. Now, it could be just, we're all just asking for a little bit too much too soon. Maybe they've got this plan that they're strategizing about, and that's why the White House is responding. We'll see. We also have some updates on the Hunter Biden art sales stuff. Joe Biden was speaking, and he got asked about this. Hey, Joe, when he was walking out of there, why so many meetings with old Hunty? Why are you, they get shouted at him some questions when he's doing his little scripted read, whatever he does. And he walks away, doesn't answer any of those questions. Why so many meetings? And the House Judiciary Committee, which has been asking a lot about this stuff, saying, is the quid pro quo hiding in Hunter's art sales? Why is Hunter getting paid like $500,000 for his art? It's kind of insane. And if you have a history of inflating your value because you're selling the brand and you don't have a brand to sell anymore, now you just sell your art and you just inflate that. But it's the same story, right? You're still buying access. And so while the Republicans are also looking into this, saying what has happened historically with Burisma and Ukraine and Romania and the CEFC and so on, what about what's happening right now? Like, the dude is selling art right now. It's crazy. And so we'll see if the Republicans do anything about it. But they're certainly asking a lot of questions and sending some serious letters out there. Regardless, we've got Newt Gingrich, who says that Obama is really the man behind the whole show. He's the person who is really running Washington. And we'll listen to that clip. He says that Joe is just not there. And I think, of course, that is an astute observation from Newt. Newt is astute. So we have a lot to get to, my friends, and we hope that you join us all throughout the show. We have 3 segments, Biden and the impeachment. We've got, of course, Trump being removed. That lawsuit fails, and the severance taking place in Georgia. And so we're grateful to have you. And if you want to be a part of the show when we get through it all, we're going to have you join us over at our members-only amazing community, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we'll be heading over for our members-only after party. And whether you join us on YouTube as a member or on Locals as a member, we're grateful for your support. We really try to deliver for our members. We do member-only morning streams. We had a great stream this morning. And we also do after parties after this live stream here. We have a Saturday show coming up tomorrow, but it's going to be special because it's movie night, my friends. It's community movie night tomorrow. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern time, whether you're a member on YouTube or a member on Locals, we're going to be doing movie night. And so the movie is V for Vendetta. If you haven't seen it in a while, now's a good night to watch it. I'm watching it tonight. And so I'll be prepared. We have discussion questions posted on our Locals. YouTube friends, I'll post those over on YouTube as well. And so we'll see you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern time for our movie night debrief, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And it's fun. We did one previously with the movie Contact, and that was a lot of fun too. Also, our new website, robertgovea.com, is a great place where you can go to get the latest updates on everything we're working on, including the reports on all the shows. You can get a summary of what exactly happened and share these with friends and stay apprised of all the latest developments by signing up for our newsletter right here. So all the latest, greatest is delivered to your inbox. And we appreciate you joining us over there. Now, before we get into it, want to say what's up and shout out to our friends at fieldofgreens.com. That's, we all want to lose some of those pandemic pounds because we just got out of a pandemic and we're about to be in another one. So we got to lose the pandemic pounds before they try to shove them back on us again, although we're not complying this time. Anyways, the point is we all want to lose the pounds, but how sick are you? Of all the ads for the weight loss pills and fad diets, we've all been there. We've all done that. We know they don't work, but you know what does? Eating healthy, especially 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, fruits, I know, and vegetables, not a fan. You got to prepare them every day. They go bad very quickly. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor says, oh my goodness, whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Head on over to fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to save 15% off with code Robert when you check out. And remember, the vegetables want to be eaten. That's why they're here. Look how delicious they look and happy. Don't even have to feel bad about it. Just gobs of vegetables, and Field of Greens is one way to do it. Don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. All right, so here we go. Meat and potatoes on the day. Donald Trump files a motion to sever in the Georgia case. Remember, he's one of 19 co-defendants, and some of the co-defendants are federal officials. They're also trying to remove their case from the state level court, which is where Big Fanny is operating, and take it up to the federal level. And so we've got a bunch of stuff happening simultaneously. We're going to go through 2 of the main highlights here. Donald Trump's motion to sever himself at the state level from the other 19 co-defendants. So Trump is going to say, I don't want to be with Sidney Powell. She's the person who wants a speedy trial very quickly, and trial's coming up like in October. So Trump says, no, too fast for us. We also know Kenneth Chesebro and others are going to be moving that direction. And so Trump wants to sever from them at the state level in Big Fanny's Fulton County. So what the other point is that Mark Meadows, who's also a co-defendant in the same state case, is filed and has been battling this, a removal request to take his case out from the state level and bring it up to federal court, which would also, in a way, theoretically sever him from other co-defendants. So one is severance by removal, and we've got a bunch of different categories of co-defendants because some people don't get to make that federal request because they weren't federal officials like Mark Meadows was. Of course, he was Trump's chief of staff. So you see, we've got some technical stuff to get to, but I think it's going to make a lot of sense when we see how it lays out. This is the filing by Donald Trump. Case, of course, state of Georgia versus Trump. This filed August 31st. Superior Court, Fulton County, Georgia. This is where Big Fanny lives. Judge is Scott McAfee. This is Trump. He says, this is my motion to sever my case from the co-defendants who demanded a statutory speedy trial. And previously here, we've seen that Big Fanny Willis, the biggest DA in Georgia, which is why she's Big Fanny, is somebody who does not want all of the same rights to apply now that this speedy trial has been invoked. She's saying that those people who requested a speedy trial now are waiving other rights about proper notice, about the evidence, and whether they can get that evidence in advance of trial or how quickly in advance of trial. And so this is becoming a little bit of a mess even for Big Fanny. So President Trump now moves to sever his case from those co-defendants who have demanded a speedy trial under Georgia law, Powell, Chesebro. And they've got a scheduled court date coming up, October 23rd, very, very soon. The underlying reasons and justification, says Trump, for the court to exercise its discretion here, Judge, and grant the severance, meaning Trump gets separated from everybody else, are the following. Trump's lawyers say, the substantial adverse procedural and substantive effects that President Trump would endure, as noted in the government's file, which is the notice of the speedy trial rights and the demand upon evidentiary and procedural rights in support. So this was the motion that we read previously that Big Fanny was submitting. She was asking the court to kind of scold the defendants. Oh, you want a speedy trial, don't you? Oh, well, I guess you're going to get what you asked for. And so if you have a speedy trial, then you don't get right to proper notice of the evidence against you. And we're all sitting here going, wait a minute, what? Like, from the defense perspective, that's the whole point of requesting a speedy trial, is to make the government have to adhere to their deadlines, have them fail. When they fail, the evidence is precluded and they can't use it. That's the whole point. So when Fanny was saying that, well, you can have a speedy trial, but all of those other things that we have to comply with are all, you waive them. It's like, wait a minute, what? No, they did not. So Trump is saying Fanny in that filing wants the court to advise Trump of all this. And Trump's saying, this is ridiculous. Like, we don't want any of this stuff. So please don't advise us, in other words. They say undersigned lead counsel, so Trump's lawyer, specially set trial in the Southern District of Florida before Judge Cannon on September 26 in U.S. versus Doherty. So this is not Trump's case, but the lawyer, so this lawyer who is called Stephen Sado, he's just notifying the court, hey, we've also got a conflict. Like, I'm due in trial on September 26 for a totally unrelated case. 3 defendants are going to trial, and the case is expected to last 2 to 3 weeks. So September 26, 2 to 3 weeks, going to bump him right into October 23rd. Undersigned counsel, the lawyer, says that I'm not going to have sufficient time to prepare Trump's case for trial by that date, which is the date that Chesebro requested the speedy trial. And the lawyer says, okay, look here, Your Honor, respectfully, let me be very respectful to you. Requiring less than 2 months preparation time to defend a 98-page indictment charging 19 defendants with 41 various charges, including a RICO conspiracy charge with 161 overt acts, solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, false statements in writing, forgery, influencing, computer crimes, conspiracy to defraud the state, and other offenses, would violate President Trump's federal and state constitutional rights to a fair trial and due process of law. So just explaining that there's a lot going on here, Judge. You know, you can see this, 19 co-defendants. Obviously, this is kind of insane. The defense is highlighting, honestly, kind of how insane it is to go to a trial so quickly, right? The fact that Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell are going to trial is the strategy, right? This is why they are doing it. They're saying, oh, all right, Big Fanny, she's so confident. All right, let's see if she can do it. Let's go to trial, baby. October 23rd. She's got 19 co-defendants, 41 charges, 161 over. Go ahead, do it. Let's go. And Trump's people are obviously saying, well, that's not going to be our strategy, right? We're not going to try that one. So we're going to ask for a long continuance. Please don't lump us into this same category. So they say, wherefore, President Trump respectfully requests that the court grant the requested severance. Respectfully submitted, Stephen Sado. And we'll see if that happens or not. And remember, this is only one portion of this entire conversation. This was the motion to advise the defendants of their speedy trial demand, saying that, you know, Your Honor, because they want a speedy trial, guess what? They have waived a bunch of stuff, waived the 10 days notice of discovery. So we don't really have to tell them about the evidence until we get maybe until, I don't know when. I don't know if there's any limiting principle on it. You know, it's just like, we're just going to show you the day before trial. Guess who's showing up tomorrow? You waived your 10-day notice. It's like, what? It's kind of insane. So this is just one portion of the Trump severance, one portion of the possibility for the case to deviate off of its current trajectory. But the other component is the removal, which is Mark Meadows. And this was Trump's chief of staff, who now wants this case to leave Big Fanny's court and go to the federal district level. And so he submitted this one, a supplemental brief by Mark Meadows. And a lot of people are saying that this is just kind of cover for Trump. If Mark Meadows is successful here, Trump may do the same thing. And people on the left are flipped about this. Okay, we're going to come back shortly after we're done with some of this analysis and see exactly what Weissman is saying about this. Because he's saying if this case gets removed, if it comes out of Big Fanny's courtroom, well, that's going to mean that it's in the federal system, and the federal system doesn't allow cameras in the courtroom. Oh, man. They really want cameras in the courtroom on these cases because they think it's going to be very harmful to Trump. I personally would be thrilled to see it. I'd love to see Fanny out there and just see what she says, if she says anything, and watch the media just, yes, queen, all her, all day long. Like, okay, let's see it. Because I don't think that they're that competent. So I want to see it. Let's put it on display. And they can hem and haw about what a serious ordeal this was. And it's just text messages and meetings. It's like, all right. So here's Mark Meadows, who's going to be filing this thing and removing it up, says that the court, Your Honor, this is Meadows' lawyers, the court has asked for a supplemental briefing on whether this is the following question. And there's a lot of technical stuff here. We'll fast forward through the heavy lifting. But they say here, a finding, this is the question the judge said. The judge said, hey, Big Fanny and Mark, I need an answer on this question. I need to know. If a finding that at least one, okay, so at least one, but maybe not all, of the overt acts that Big Fanny is alleging, if one of those overt acts, just one, if that happened under the color of Mark Meadows' office, so like within his job description, would that be sufficient for federal removal? If one act alleged fall within Mark Meadows' job description, like was legal, or arguably legal, or arguably defensibly legal, right? Like you could say, I was a federal official and my defense is a federal defense. I was acting within the color of law. Can that justify the removal of the case from the state Big Fannies to the federal court? And this would have serious consequences because it would not be in Fulton County anymore. Now we'd have a jury pool that could expand out to the rest of Georgia. Now we've got a federal judge involved. That would be, appealable to the Court of Appeals for the federal circuit. We're playing at a different ballgame now, right? We're not dealing with the Big Fannies of Georgia. So they're freaked about that. They want their blue county and their jurors to just go and incriminate Trump. They want it to be like the Coliseum on display. They throw some gladiators in there. Everybody just munches them to bits. So if Trump removes it, they're going to be in trouble. So the answer, says Meadows, is yes. If one single act falls within Meadows' job description, yes, of course, Judge. That's what this removal is for. He says, Your Honor, removal is required if the, quote, prosecution relates to any act that occurred in the course of official duties. Says pretty clear, Your Honor. The statute, binding precedent, Hornbook law confirm that a prosecution is removable if any part relates to an act under color of federal office. All right, so this is kind of like a backhand. This is like a legal backhand. It's like, all right, listen here. All right, this is not even complicated. All right, the statute says it, the precedent says it, the case law, and the law that the books that explain the law all say the same thing. That a prosecution is removable if any part of it, even one overt act, relates to an act that's within the job description. Removal is thus required, telling Your Honor, if at least one overt act charged has a connection or an association to even, quote, the outer perimeter of his line of duty. So if it's even like questionable, it's within the context. So Big Fanny's like totally out of bounds here. They say, here's, Your Honor, here's how simple it is. Here's the statutes. The text says two particular aspects of the text as written confirm this, pretty simple. The federal officer removal statute refers to a civil action or criminal prosecution, which is the category we're in. It doesn't refer to different claims, counts, or theories. And it authorizes the removal, quoting now, against or directed to a federal officer, quote, for or relating to any act under color of law, bolded, referenced U.S. Code 1442A. Lawyers are like, It's right here in the law. It's like right here in the statute. Like just, oh, did you open your book and look at the law? 28 U.S. Code 1442A. It says any act, literally. The statutory text itself, the law itself, thus shows that the case would be removable if some, but not all, of the charged conduct relates to Mr. Meadows' official duties. So this is like, think about it this way. Mark Meadows did one thing that was within his job description, and he did a bunch of other stuff that's not. Big Fanny charged him with all of them. So if even one of those was within the federal level, everything else goes. As clear as day in the law. There's also case law. He says binding precedent. The Fulton County Fanny knows from recent experience, knows this. And this is great. Oh, this is great. All right. So the Fulton County even knows about this. Why? Because the Fulton County got the old legal backhand from the Court of Appeals when this thing came back on a denial during an appeal process. Here's the claim, that if one claim is cognizable, is present, if one claim is present, the entire action is removed, regardless of the relationship between the claim and the non-removable claims, okay? If one thing is within the job description, but other things are not, doesn't matter. The fact that one is, the whole thing goes. And how do we know this? Look at this case, Georgia versus Hines, coming out of the Northern District of Georgia, 2022. And this is where Big Fanny got remanded, denying remand of changes by Fulton County District Attorney against federal task force officers. The state argued that the officers could not be acting under the color of federal authority. Much like the argument here, the Hines court rejected Fanny's argument. It said it was irrelevant to whether they acted under the authority of federal authority, okay? So Fanny is being dishonest here. She's already lost this issue before. And specifically, Fulton County appealed it, and the court dropped it back on her. Said, nope, can't do that. Sorry. But she's trying it again. That's dishonest, man. This federal judge, we'll see what he has to say about that. This proposition is binding precedent under Nadler. There, the 11th Circuit addressed the jurisdiction and immunity. It was a defamation case. Somebody sued a U.S. attorney who was a candidate for the judgeship. On immunity, the court concluded that under a state law standard, the arranging of a whistleblower with the FBI was not an official act, but that leaking the investigation was an official act, but that leaking to the press was not. Saying that removal, it makes clear the court must permit removal if any, not necessarily all, relate to the official duties. Many other federal courts agree. Look at these, all of these courts. Baker, here's one. Morgan, Sawyer, Mesa versus California. Another one. We have Hornbook Law. Also, this procedural book. Oh, gosh, these law school books. Oh, gosh, this is what our professors used to make us go get. Wright and Miller, Federal Practice and Procedure, Section 3726, which are these big books that explain the laws. Even if it says, lastly, it's Hornbook Law, it says, when it explains this, authorizes removal, even if only one of the controversies, only one, if it involves a federal officer, signed by, written by Wright and Miller. All right, so the actual law explains it, the case law explains it, and the books that lawyers use to explain the law explains it. So Big Fanny should lose, Your Honor. Says the state's framing of the case does not control removal. Removal is also required, writes Meadows' lawyers, even if the state has charged some acts beyond his official duties, because what controls here, this is it, is Meadows' articulation of his federal defense, not what the state says in their charges. Right? The point of this law is to make sure that the states can't just act like little, ankle biters, just nipping away at federal officials, or much worse, like tactical coup organizers who are justifying weaponized criminal prosecutions against their political opponents. Not supposed to happen. And so we've got federal supremacy, and if these acts happen when they were within the conduct of their office, They should be immune. They should be able to remove this and deal with it at the federal level so that little peon partisan hack prosecutors can't just emerge and start their attacks. So if we make the law that's created to protect against that from happening, if we base it on what the prosecutors say, well, then that's kind of a dumb law, isn't it? Because the prosecutors are always going to say it's legitimate. So we instead, as a matter of policy, make it about the federal defense, because we're trying to protect the federal officials against this type of garbage. So they explain that. The state also cannot avoid removal by mixing charges of some removable and non-removable conduct. Like, that's nuts, right? You wouldn't be allowed to do that. All they would do is just defeat the removal by tacking on something that's unofficial. And they would be able to usurp the entire point of the law. So obviously that's illogical. Federal courts have also held that the state cannot evade removal by disclaiming any reliance on official acts. So Big Fanny can't say, well, we didn't rely on any official acts. And the record here makes clear that Meadows and everything that he did related to his duties, to his official duties. So they say, Your Honor, pretty simple here. Under the black letter legal principles, Mr. Meadows is entitled to removal. And you can also just translate, a lot of this to Trump. You can interchange Trump in here for a lot of this. His unrebutted testimony establishes the broad scope of his official duties. He was assistant to the president and chief of staff. 3 categories. He provides the president close confidential advice, right? In other words, you could just say Trump is the president, right? Trump is if this applies to Meadows as a subordinate of the president, kind of applies to the president, no? B, using his discretion to gather information, including from state and federal officials on a wide range of interests, federal interests, potential policies, to be able to advise the president. He acted as a gatekeeper to Trump. He managed the time, very critical after Election Day, and he was there to ensure a peaceful transition of power, which would have happened but for the incompetence at the January 6th day by the people who were supposed to secure the Capitol, or were either too dumb to do it appropriately or too complicit in allowing it to happen. One way or another, they failed. Mr. Meadows also exercised more specific duties in support of these general functions. He managed the White House staff, regularly coordinated meetings with the president, federal officials, other constituents. Phone number was plastered all over the wall in every bathroom in America, he said. Felt like everybody was calling. Meadows was on duty 24/7, traveled with the president, or sent a designee at all times. So even if the court were to conclude that some of the alleged conduct falls outside of the duties, removal would be justified if even one act falls within. And so here are the quick acts, right? They say, all right, Mr. Meadows under Act 5, they said, what did he do? I think they're defending this. They say Mr. Meadows considered this part with his role as chief of staff was consistent with his duties. So they're responding to each of the overt acts. They say in this one, Act 9, Mr. Meadows was not actually in this meeting. He was not involved at all. He was called down beforehand, and to notify visitors, they got positive COVID tests. The state presented no contrary evidence there. Act 19, Mr. Meadows did not ask for this memo, as Big Fanny says, but to the extent he was involved at all, it would have been within his role as chief of staff. Mr. Meadows visited Cobb County. He's allowed to do that. He was wanting to maintain awareness of matters that Trump would ask about. He called somebody called Francis Watson, all within the purview. So they're just saying all of these are within his job description. And there's a lot of acts there. Signed sincerely, George J. Terwilliger III. Shout out to George Terwilliger III. Good motion. Also submitted by John Moran and others on behalf of Mark Meadows. And this got dropped into the federal court. And so we'll see what the judge says about it. I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me. It's very clear. Fanny's trying to have it her way and feels like this is going to get removed without much more debate. But the Democrats are unhappy about that. They really do not want that happening. And so we've got Andrew Weissman, who's going to be complaining about what happens if there's no cameras in the courtroom. But what happens if this is not removed? There have been efforts to defund Big Fanny. And Brian Kemp in Georgia, who's somebody who's not a big Trump fan, has said, we're not doing that. Sorry.
I did want to take just a few minutes to speak to some history that's trying to repeat itself over the last few days here in Georgia. Many of you will recall that in the final weeks of 2020, I clearly and repeatedly said that I would not be calling a special session of the General Assembly to overturn the 2020 election results because such an action would have been unconstitutional. It was that simple. Fast forward today, nearly 3 years later, memories are fading fast. There have been calls by one individual in the General Assembly and echoed outside of these walls by the former president for a special session that would ignore current Georgia law and directly interfere with the proceedings of a separate but equal branch of government. Up to this point, I have not seen any evidence that D.A. Willis's actions or lack thereof warrant action by the Prosecuting Attorney Oversight Commission.
Wow.
But that will ultimately be a decision that the commission will make. Regardless, in my mind, a special session of the General Assembly to end run around this law is not feasible and may ultimately prove to be unconstitutional. The bottom line is that in the state of Georgia, as long as I'm governor, we're going to follow the law and the Constitution, regardless of who it helps or harms politically. Over the last few years, some inside and outside of this building may have forgotten that, but I can assure you, I have not. The oath I took with my hand on the Bible that's right behind me in January of 23 is the same Bible that I took in my inauguration in 2019. And in Georgia, we will not be engaging in political theater that only inflames the emotions of the moment.
It's crazy.
We will do what is right. We will uphold our oaths as public servants. And it's my belief that our state will be better off for it.
I hope that he's right, but I don't think that he is. I think that we're going through this era right now where if you're not engaged in the political blood sport, that you're going to fall by the wayside. And so I think it's nice that, we're going to be above board and big fanny's legitimate. And there's nothing that I need to say, even to mention that this is political at all. Doesn't even comment on it. Just says, we're just going to let it all go according to plan, even though large portions of even lefties are very concerned about this prosecution in particular. Her case might be about to be removed. It's going to be severed. She's got trial coming up on August 23rd, and she is asking that people's speedy trial rights be waived and their notice requirements be waived. I mean, there's like a bunch of insanity going on, but to just stand there kind of steadfastly and say, this is just normal business in America, and we're going to let the process go forward is one strategy. I think it's probably going to be a losing strategy, quite frankly. I think the other side, Trump is just the first person, right? They're already talking about in California, prosecuting and investigating and opening criminal probes into Texas for sending migrants over. And the list goes on, right? It's like open blood sport on the political stage. And quite frankly, I think that Kemp and guys like him, maybe that's part of the equation. They're a little concerned that maybe Big Fanny is going to come breathing down his neck, and nobody wants that to happen. So that's Brian Kemp. Not expecting much out of him or Georgia. We'll see if the federal courts remove it. But along the same line, here's Bill Barr, who for some reason is having a difficult time understanding how this is election interference, even though we've got 4 indictments that just dropped within the last 4.5 months. And all of them are going to climax right in the middle of election season, right in the middle of the highest point of attention when Americans are thinking about mailing in their ballots and making their donations. 4 criminal trials all taking place right there, and it's not election interference. Here's Bill.
Well, I think the governor is right. I mean, the basic principle in the criminal justice system is if a prominent person commits a crime and is seeking office, that doesn't give him immunity. If there's enough time to have it resolved.
By the way, that's not what is being argued here. Just to pause on that. If you're running for office and you seek immunity, okay, that's not exactly what Trump is asking for. Actually, I don't think he's asking for that at all. Actually, I don't think anybody's asking for that at all. The only thing that we're asking for relative to the running is that he be allowed to speak freely. Not asking for immunity like you just can murder somebody. Running for president now. Be a great tactic for Hunter Biden. He should announce, for crying out loud. That's not what anybody's asking for. We're asking for, in that regard, that he be allowed to participate in the campaign and participate in the process, in the political process, without being shackled and hampered by the criminal process. But that's not immunity. You can prosecute him, sure, but defer all of the trials until after the election. How about that? You can still prosecute him. Why does it have to happen before? Oh, well, because there's a reason for that. Because this is a lot less about justice than it is about scoring political points. So here's Bill.
Before the election, it should be resolved. The idea that, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry, we'll let you get run in the election and then after we'll address it. That's not a principle of the criminal. I mean, just think, some mayor charged with massive embezzlement, and he says, well, it's a year and a half to the election. Let's put that on hold. Will I run for re-election? It's silly. It's silly. Now, you can argue about whether he should have been charged and so forth.
Yes,
but the idea that this is interfering with the election is simply wrong.
Yeah, it's simply wrong that the trial on January 6th is going to be scheduled one day before Super Tuesday, when most of the country goes to vote in the Republican primaries. Not election interference, all totally normal. And this is just people, I think, who are shifting their political opinions for the narrative that they're promoting at the current moment. So this is Andrew Weissman. We know he's a big fan on MSNBC. They love having him on here to talk about Trump stuff. And he is somebody who's been upset that the federal case, that Trump's Georgia case, may be removed to the federal level. And he's saying this is all because Trump wants to avoid the cameras. And I'm thinking to myself, is that true? I don't know that that is exactly true. I think Trump kind of really enjoys some of the camera. Here is Weissman.
And I'm wondering, is there something that emerges, like a larger thought that emerges for you about how Trump is handling this, or how the system is working? Because we're a little bit into it now. Do you have any larger perspectives as you think about this? Because I know you think about this all the time.
I do. I think that the biggest issue that I see looming really has to do with cameras in the courtroom.
Wow.
This is one where obviously
that's the biggest issue of all the issues, cameras in the courtroom. Not Big Fanny's panic button with the speedy trial request. None of this concern about the federal removal. It's about cameras.
For the first time in our history, we have a former president being charged. And it is correct for people to be concerned about making sure that this is not a show trial. We're not a banana republic. And I think the way...
Did you hear what he just said? He says, we want to make sure that people know this is not a show trial and that we're not a banana republic. This is a former prosecutor, by the way. And I'm sure he knows that Joe Biden is the person who is in charge of the Department of Justice, which is Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland is in charge of Jack Smith, who's leading these prosecutions. And there's a direct chain of news that connects Joe Biden to the entire prosecution. Banana Republic was launched. This is the banana. These prosecutions are the banana republic, Andrew.
To cut through that is to follow the model of the January 6 hearings, to follow the model, to date myself, of the Watergate hearings.
So he wants a fake show trial, just like the January 6 committee was. Remember, there was no adversarial proceedings in that at all. It was a bunch of Congress people, all with the same opinions, two so-called Republicans who are not even Republicans in Congress anymore because they got booted out and their districts were evaporated and they have no future in the Republican Party. So they were put on there on an illegally constituted committee. HR 503 said that it should have had 13 members on there, 8 of them Dems, 5 Republicans. Never happened. We had 9 total, 2 of whom were Republicans, so-called. So the whole thing was a scam. And there were liars on there. Cassidy Hutchinson, clavicle girl, said that the Secret Service helicopter had to drop the rope ladder and she was hanging off of the rope ladder with a .50 caliber to try to stop Trump, and she was barely successful. Full of lies. No opposing counsel, no cross-examination, nothing. But that's what these guys want. And he's a former prosecutor.
And so this is one reason I think the Georgia case is so significant. It's not so much that the Georgia case is one that whoever is the next president cannot pardon their way out of this case because it's a state case. Federal pardons don't apply there.
That too.
But I think the bigger import is I think it's really important for the public, whichever way the trial goes, whether it's a conviction, a hung jury, or an acquittal, that everyone gets to see it, because we have such a huge problem now with disinformation and mistrust in the electorate.
Oh, man. So there, you see, my friends, they're starting to realize it. Okay. They recognize that this mistrust, this disinformation, they know that we don't buy their garbage anymore, that this whole fake legitimacy doesn't exist. People are laughing at the mugshots. People are memeing a mugshot. For these people, this was like the most serious thing that they could ever do. This was rubbing Trump's face in the mud. And now we're all having fun with it, making t-shirts about it. How dare we not respect their system and their authority? They're serious people. And we don't think so. And that they can't stand that, man. They hate it so much. So instead, what they want to do, in my opinion, well, we'll see what he says and then we'll get there.
Sort of veering into your lane, Jen, but I think that is the real issue here, is making sure that the court of public opinion gets to see what's going on. So I think that's going to be really important for people watching all four of these cases to really keep their eye on Georgia and whether the case stays in the Georgia state court.
Yeah. Because that's where their little propaganda base is. They're all extremely excited about it being televised because they think that they're going to win on that. I'm not so sure that they will, but that's the biggest concern, right? That's the number one thing that they're all really upset about. What if Trump takes this away? And my question is, if they are so assured of themselves that the evidence that comes out is going to be horrendous for Donald Trump, why are they so petrified from the Department of Justice of just letting us see everything? Why can't we see the actual documents, the evidence? The Department of Justice from Jack Smith cobbled together a protective order that's basically insane. Trump people can't talk about anything. So Weissman was saying that they wanted this to happen in the court of public opinion, but that's not what the DOJ says. The DOJ says Trump should not even be able to tweet about this stuff. And the other lefties say Trump should not even be able to tweet or X or Truth or anything because it is too dangerous to allow him to speak. This is why all of these things are filed under seal. This is why Judge Chutkan issued a protective order that means nobody can talk about anything. One side gets to leak to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Trump can't even keep copies of his notes. So here, out of the Florida case, look at all these sealed filings. If Trump is such a monster, just let us see the evidence. It's a historic case, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that, okay? They know Trump will crush the cameras. He is enjoying it heartily and merrily because he should. And this was something that I saw that he posted. Never surrender, holding up the mugshot. And he's absolutely right about that. And as this carries on, I think that the more exposure, the more we get to see, the more lame attempts from Big Fanny and Jack Smith and all these others, I think more people are going to recognize what a disgusting joke this is, and they're going to start to wake up. Trump certainly hopes so.
I hope that Republican district attorneys and attorney generals throughout the country are closely watching the tremendous weaponization of justice that is being utilized against me. There's never been anything like it. But you ought to watch, and frankly, it's an eye for an eye, or it's fight fire with fire. Woo. What they're doing to our country is amazing. So Republicans, I hope you're watching.
We're watching, Trump, and we're certainly hopeful that the Republicans wake up, because if they don't start indicting people themselves, well, then they all might end up in shackles. So that's Donald Trump filing a motion to sever. We're going to see what happens with the removal. We're going to continue to cover this case, my friends. I hope you subscribe and join us as we do, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, we're not done yet, though. We're carrying on here, and we've got some interesting news, some good news on this one. And we have a sponsor update on this one, so we're going to skip over that. We have live stream privilege coming up, just as a heads up. All right. Donald Trump wins a lawsuit that was filed to try to remove him from the ballot in 2024, filed by Florida man, has been dismissed. And it happened pretty quickly. I was interested in seeing what this judge said about it. And so I want to go through this filing with you here today. Not a long order of dismissal, but the judge says, sorry, you can't really keep him off the ballot, not at this stage. And we're curious about this issue because we know that Lawrence Tribe, Judge Luttig, and other people who are so-called legal scholars have said Trump is an insurrectionist. He is automatically removed and disqualified from the process because of his role in the insurrection. And that he, at this moment, without any conviction, without any trials, without anything, is disqualified. And this was the lawsuit that was brought by this guy, Lawrence Kaplan, out of Florida, the Southern District of Florida. We'll hit the highlights quickly before we take a look at what the judge said dismissing this. But he says that I have been voting since 1976, voted in 12 presidential elections. That's why I have standing. I've been voting a lot. I'm a legal resident of Florida. I'm a U.S. citizen by birth. I'm a lawyer licensed in a bunch of different places. This lawyer says the facts are undeniable. Trump served as the president, but lost. And during January 6th, as we're aware, a throng marched on the Capitol and took over the country, essentially. They're saying here that Trump was involved in this. Jack Smith has been appointed. Trump has been arraigned on these charges, and that Trump has been formally indicted. He's seeking re-election, and therefore he needs to be removed. They're saying the 14th Amendment says that if you committed an insurrection by giving aid or comfort to the enemies, you've got to go. The disqualification clause is self-fulfilling, and Trump hit it. His efforts in Washington, his efforts in Georgia, and so on have justified his removal. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says any individual who commits insurrection is hereby disqualified. And so what they were asking for in this lawsuit, he says a number of top legal scholars, and there were a bunch of typos in this lawsuit. Remember this? We started running into these typos. He said that this is self-executing and that once it is in place, Trump is prohibited. Just like you're disqualified if you're under the age of 18 or 35, or if you're not a U.S. citizen, you're disqualified. Trump as an insurrectionist is disqualified. So they say here, Lawrence Kaplan, Judge, we're asking for a declaration declaring that Donald Trump is barred from seeking the presidency, and he's also barred from the presidential primary in Florida this next upcoming cycle, signed by Lawrence Kaplan. And so obviously, this was an effort to keep Trump off the ballot, and this was filed, and a judge issued a response dismissing the lawsuit. So we're going to get right to this dismissal after this word from our friends. The judge entered the order dismissing the lawsuit in Florida, and let's take a look at what he said in his filing. This was submitted out of the Southern District of Florida, and the case, of course, is Lawrence Kaplan, along with many others, versus Donald Trump. 6-page order from the court, and I think this is going to be important. I really think that the Democrats are going to try more of this. I think that this original filing was a rough draft, but we're going to see them continue to try these attempts. They're taking shots on goal right now. Just taking shots. Boom, boom. Seeing what sticks or not. So the judge is dismissing this. He says, all right, order of dismissal. It's pretty quick, right? This got turned around very rapidly. Judge says, this cause is before the court on an amended complaint by Lawrence, Florida man. They say Florida man asks for a declaratory judgment stopping Trump from seeking the office of the presidency. This is the judge writing. Also participating in a presidential primary, he says that the plaintiffs, Florida man, asserts that Trump is ineligible to serve under the 14th Amendment because of what happened on January 6th and related activities. The judge says the court concludes that it lacks subject matter jurisdiction and dismisses the complaint. So now, if you're a guy like Mark Elias or a guy like Lawrence Tribe, I was going to say if you're a guy like Judge Luttig, but I don't think he's intelligent enough to cobble together a thesis. He just takes up whatever Lawrence Tribe regurgitates and just does the same. So here, I think subject matter jurisdiction will be something that they'll try to fix, in other words, right, the next go round. So the judge says, okay, under the Federal Declaratory Judgment Act, the court has substantial discretion in deciding whether to declare the rights of litigants. If a district court, in its judgment, determines that the lawsuit or the declaratory judgment is not going to serve a useful purpose, they are saying there's no reason for us to proceed. So you want a declaration. Okay, well, you don't just get declarations for whatever the heck you want. Is it going to serve something useful? If it is, we'll consider it. But as explained below, the court exercises, in this case, its discretion, and we dismiss the complaint for lack of jurisdiction because of lack of standing. We're very familiar with that because of our 2020 election litigation coverage. The judge says, this court has an independent obligation to determine subject matter jurisdiction, even if a party doesn't challenge it, right? So there's some things the court will look at on its own. There's other things the court will not look at on its own. One thing they've got to say is, do we have the appropriate capability to even hear this case? And there's case law to support that. Inquiry into standing is essential. We have to make sure there is an actual case or controversy under Article 3 of the Constitution. They say a generalized interest, and this is a very interesting case, right? The question often comes up, why can't we just sue the government and just get declarations or just say this is illegal or this is illegal? And this is a good citation for this. A generalized interest of all citizens in constitutional governance, just because we want our country to work well and them not to violate the Constitution, does not suffice to confer standing on one such citizen. This is often called the political questions doctrine, which means just because you have a political complaint doesn't mean you can file a lawsuit. It is a political question, which is not for the courts. It's for the political process. Go talk to your congressperson. Don't complain about us here. To have standing, a plaintiff must show he has, quote, a personal stake in the dispute and that the injury is particularized. So something that is happening specifically to that person. Here, Florida man lacks standing to challenge Trump's qualifications for seeking the presidency, as the injuries alleged are not cognizable and not particular to them. Florida man says that we do have standing. He says that I've actively participated in the last 12 elections. I've voted for Republicans and Democrats. Is a Florida resident, U.S. citizen. He's an attorney. He's a member of various courts, never been sanctioned. They say that he's also, this other guy, Booten, is a Florida resident, also a citizen. And this guy, Straniais, is a Nevada resident and a citizen. They say that, hey, we're going to suffer injury, man. If Trump is allowed to run for president and win, we're going to be harmed if he could be disqualified and removed right now. But the judge says, yeah, well, okay. However, an individual citizen does not have standing to challenge whether another individual is qualified to hold public office. That comes from other cases. In Berg, the plaintiff was an attorney representing himself. He tried to sue, seeking declaratory injunction, saying that Obama was not eligible to run. Natural-born citizen lawsuit. But they said, sorry, you can't sue. The court said standing has been a consistent barrier and noted that other lawsuits to stop Obama have all been failed. Same thing. They tried to sue to stop Senator John McCain. They said that voters have no standing to complain about participation of an ineligible candidate in an election. So the question is going to be, who does have standing? And we'll see what the courts say about that, if anybody. The court concluded that an alleged injury, so probably the parties, right? We have to get to like the party level about balloting and stuff like this. The court concluded that an alleged injury stemming from a presidential candidate's failure to satisfy the eligibility requirements of the natural born citizen clause is not particularized enough of an injury to constitute an injury in fact sufficient to satisfy standing. So if the party says we want to get somebody or a state person, like not a citizen, but let's say somebody who's involved in the process, Trump is denied, they are specifically injured in fact. So as I said, I think this will just continue to percolate up. The idea will gain momentum like a snowball rolling down a hill until somebody withstanding or some entity withstanding emerges. The Third Circuit affirmed the district court's ruling in Berg. You know, the same thing didn't happen like with Obama, or the same thing didn't happen with John McCain, right? We can distinguish those cases. These were aberrants. These were cases on the margins. Okay, there wasn't enough critical mass from the RNC to sue Obama over his birth certificate. Not enough critical mass to have the DNC sue to stop John McCain, right, or for his birth details. But with Trump, you better believe, man, they are going to come hard for him. They're going to say, we can never let this happen again. We have to do this so it never happens in America again. The Third Circuit affirmed the district court's ruling that you can't just sue unless you suffer a particularized injury. And at least two courts have concluded that citizens, right, attempting to disqualify individuals from office lack standing. Two cases where that happened. In this case, they say Florida man, in this case, lacks standing, and thus this court lacks jurisdiction. Can't do anything about it. Accordingly, the court exercises its jurisdiction right now under the Declaratory Judgment Act, along with its obligation to examine its own jurisdiction to dismiss the case. And again, another lawsuit, a future lawsuit, might not be brought just for a declaratory action. So it may be outside of just this act, right? I'm trying to think about how this lawsuit evolves. So it's a different party bringing the suit. It's brought under a different claim. They're asking for removal rather than a declaration, asking that once Trump makes it to a ballot, he should be removed because it was already, that's erroneous. He's already been disqualified under the 14th Amendment. So the judge says, based on the foregoing, it is ordered and adjudged that Florida man's lawsuit is dismissed without prejudice, meaning he could refile it, but he probably won't unless he goes and finds some standing. The clerk of the court is instructed to close this case. All pending motions are denied as moot. All deadlines are terminated. So it is done. Done and ordered in chambers by Robin L. Rosenberg, U.S. District Judge. So very interesting ruling. I think this was a shot on goal. They missed this time, but I am very certain they will be back. And this is just attempt number one. There also is an update out of Arizona along the same lines, asking whether Trump will be removed from Arizona. This is what the Democratic Secretary of State in Arizona, shout out, has to say. This came over from the Hill, saying Trump cannot be barred from running for president. Adrian Fontes. Man, I'm sure that was a painful thing to admit. I can't imagine his Twitter followers are happy about that. He said he does not have the ability to bar Trump from running for president on Wednesday. There have been calls to bar Trump from being able to run in 2024 under the 14th Amendment. This continues to gain momentum. Fontes said despite those claims, he cannot do so by way of a previous Arizona Supreme Court case. He says now the Arizona Supreme Court said that because there's no statutory process in federal law to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, you can't enforce it. Now, what the Arizona Supreme Court said, he said, so that's the state law in Arizona. Now, do I agree with that? He says, no, that's stupid, right? So he wants this to happen. He just doesn't think he has the power now to do it. Fontes said, despite his dislike of what the Arizona Supreme Court has decided, he'll still follow it because it's the law. I'm going to follow the law. The law in Arizona is what the law is. Whether I like it or not is irrelevant. That's a good statement. We'll see if that holds true. So they are going to continue to try this. I have no doubt about it. If they can't imprison him, if they can't have him voluntarily remove himself, well, maybe they'll just remove him for him. And so we'll continue to cover this. I expect to see a lot more. Thank you for subscribing as we cover. All right. And now, my friends, we got one final segment on the day. The Biden White House is launching an impeachment war room to rebut allegations from Republicans when they bring their impeachment. But this is kind of a surprise to me because everything we've been hearing from the Republicans is they're still really thinking hard about it because they're gathering all the evidence and all this stuff. But it's amazing. The Democrats have a war room while I think the Republicans have a playpen, but they're trying to figure out what they're working on. Democrats not wasting any time. Here's what NBC tells us. They say that the White House ramps up a war room to battle the expected GOP impeachment inquiry. The White House has stood up a war room. Look how many people here, 24 lawyers, legislative aides and communications staffers to lead an aggressive response to a likely Republican impeachment inquiry. A White House aide familiar with the strategy said. Now, this effort, as described, look at this, by 8 people familiar with the plans. What did they have, like a party? 8, did they just invite him to the conference room? The ABC, NBC News people? Just, hey, come on into the conference room. We're talking about it right now. Just take a look. 8 people familiar with the plans has been taking shape for months. So the White House is preparing for an impeachment while most of the Republicans are still debating it. White House counsel's office is going to be involved in it as part of the response. Biden's aides and allies say they are preparing vigorously to push back against an impeachment inquiry and present it as an evidence-free partisan sham that shows the GOP has a penchant for chaos. And this is interesting. You know, it's like if you're preparing for something, that kind of means you really think something's coming, probably, right? You're preparing for the hurricane because you see it out on the storm front. And maybe they know something more that we don't, but they're working on it. Comparing this to past impeachment isn't apples to apples or even apples to oranges, they said, the White House. Never in modern history has an impeachment been based on no evidence whatsoever. And I love this stupid phrase that I keep hearing, no evidence whatsoever. It's like, what do you need another book? Do you need a whole nother, how many more hundreds of pages do you need? You want some more evidence? There's text messages, there's phone calls, there's document form. What are you talking about? So the White House has been preparing for impeachment on the first day of the new House majority this year. But now Kevin McCarthy calls impeachment inquiry, quote, a natural step forward. White House aides have spent the August recess researching the GOP statements and fine-tuning a message. All right. So we know Congress has been on vacay for the month of August, supposed to be back in September. And so both sides have been sharpening their axes. House Republicans have said that they're going to focus their inquiry on alleged criminal activity by Biden's son, Hunter Biden. It would also delve into so far unproven claims that Joe Biden engaged in bribery or corruption or otherwise abused his power. So McCarthy and others, of course, are responding to this, and we'll see if they actually do anything. McCarthy is very proud of himself. Comer says that they're getting some momentum here, that it's gaining steam. Enough people are starting to get sick of it, and maybe we'll see some action.
Well, certainly, I think the evidence grows every day that would support impeachment. Many of us in Congress are already there. We've seen enough. But with respect to my role as chairman of the House Oversight Committee, we're in charge of bringing out all the evidence. So there are still more bank records that we want to have access to. We want to make public. Certainly, we want to know about these 5,400 emails with the pseudonyms. We had requested all email correspondence between Joe Biden and his son pertaining to Ukraine. And of course, we didn't get a whole lot back, but now we learned they use pseudonyms and fake names. So we re-requested the information in the pseudonym names, and lo and behold, there's 5,400 emails. Many have been redacted. So we've still got more information to process. We're trying to do it as quickly as possible, but every day the evidence continues to grow that would support impeachment. I don't think any vice president in the history of America was more corrupt than Joe Biden. And certainly we're concerned that all the corruption that he benefited from and his family benefited from while he was vice president could have tainted his presidency and made him vulnerable, made our country vulnerable, made him compromised. And that's why we're continuing this investigation, and we're going to try to get all the bank records and all the email correspondence that Joe Biden had pertaining to shady business transactions that his family was involved in with foreign nationals.
Insane. There's 5,400 of them. There's also some new emails that I think came out from Governor Whitmer out of Michigan, where they're using Greek. They're translating their emails into Greek so that when you search for them and you search for words like FBI, it's Greek letters, and you're like, it doesn't show up in the FOIA requests, right? These people are hiding their corruption in plain sight, and the government agencies are covering them up via redactions and bureaucratic red tape, protecting their own institutions and their own candidates. Nancy Mace says, we got to get those emails.
President Biden has thrown his country under the bus, and he's been forced to lie about his activities with his son, Hunter, and his son's businesses every time he's been asked about it. And all this could be cleared up if Hunter Biden and Joe Biden wanted to come to the Oversight Committee and testify before our committee under oath. But we have to get access to these emails. The president will not answer the questions, and when he does, he lies about it. We want to make sure that we have all the information. The DOJ has not done their job with an investigation, and it's our job to do their job for them at this point because of the way things are going. And every time we turn over a stone, we look under the rug, we look under a rock, we find more evidence of potential bribery, money laundering, et cetera. And none of it happens without Joe Biden.
He is the man right in the middle. The Democrats keep screaming that, no, we need to see like bank stubs, direct deposits into Joe Biden's account. And then Joe Biden on a yacht. I was going to say with people that he wants around him, but that's, very inappropriate because he's disgusting. Anyways, the point is, this is Kevin McCarthy. He's very excited about what the House Republicans are up to. He says, we're doing a great job, America. You just, hang tight.
Someone did an analysis of this Congress versus the last Congress. And
who?
The last Congress, the Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But this Congress actually has produced more bills, more to become law, which makes it more difficult. But the bigger things we also changed.
So you're working real well with the Democrats.
Members now have to come to work. Bills have to go through committee. You get 72 hours to read it. Not just the members, but the people, the American public themselves. The People's House is back. And so I think that's a very big positive, and we continue to work on that, with which was our commitment to America.
Thanks, Kev. People's House is back, baby. All right, we're back in charge, man. They're just crushing. He's like the male version of Nancy Pelosi 2.0, except he doesn't get anything done. She got a lot of things done. He doesn't get anything done. But we'll see if there is enough evidence for them to finally gather momentum to do something more meaningful. The House GOP is certainly on top of it. They're asking a question. Is the quid pro quo hiding in Hunter Biden's art sales? So while we're asking ourselves about Burisma and a lot of the past criminality from the Biden crime family, are they still committing crimes right under our noses, plain as day, selling art? Well, the GOP put together this montage making the argument that yes.
Hunter Biden is reportedly selling art to pay for his $15,800 a month rent in Malibu. How can you guarantee that people are not going to be buying this art to gain favor with the president?
That is a question for Hunter Biden and his representatives.
I
know. I hear.
I hear. The White House, we know
I
that
hear
one of
your
the art
question.
buyers got a job from the Biden administration. Can you guarantee that there is no quid pro quo?
I hear your question. I'm not going to get involved in this. That is a question for Hunter Biden's representatives.
It turns out that in 2019, Hunter Biden couldn't find a gallery to list his art. And what happened in 2020 that changed all that? His dad became president of the United States. Now, a single piece of art from Hunter Biden sells for more than the average American home.
Incredible.
This art arrangement is so suspicious that the Obama administration ethics czar, Walter Schaub, tweeted on July 10th of this year, Hunter Biden should cancel this art sale because he knows the prices are based on his dad's job. Shame on POTUS if he doesn't ask Hunter to stop. By the way, Mr. Attorney General, this is the same Hunter Biden who's being investigated by your department and the IRS for tax fraud.
But I just don't think anybody can make the case that selling 13 pieces of art for $500,000 a pop when you've never even juried into a community center art fair is not because you're the president's son.
According to her attorney, Mr. Biden claims to be nothing more than a Yale-educated attorney artist who is somewhat financially destitute and he needs child support adjusted. However, for an artist living on meager means, Mr. Biden is living lavishly.
Nice job, Judiciary Committee, delivering that little montage. Obviously, it's a joke. Just like nobody would buy the art if Joe Biden wasn't the president, nobody wanted Hunter Biden on their company boards if Joe Biden wasn't the vice president. So people are asking the question, why so many meetings, Joe? Why did you hang out with Hunter all the time and pal around with some of his business people?
Every day across this country, ordinary people get up and do extraordinary things. Thanks to them, we're going to continue to grow our economy from the middle out and the bottom up with good paying jobs, more breathing room for families and American workers, building industries of the future. They remind us of who we are. I'm going to keep saying this. We're the United States of America. There is simply nothing beyond our capacity when we set our mind to it and do it together. Have a good Labor Day weekend, and God bless you all.
Why are so many Americans living paycheck to paycheck? Foreign business partners. So Americans living paycheck. Will you give your bank records to Congress, President Biden? Yes. Will you give your bank records to Congress?
Are you worried
No.
about student loan payments?
No questions. Are you worried about student loan payments, which are coming up soon, too? I mean, oh, my gosh. So it's going to be just a total catastrophe. Our president doesn't have anything to say about really much of anything. Have a great Labor Day. All right. So who is actually running the country? Well, it's certainly not that guy. All right. Half the chat just slipped into a coma. And so we now see that we have to ask ourselves who's actually in charge in this country.
It's always weeks and months later, they begrudgingly admit things that are just painfully obvious. They don't lay out much. They say, you know, other presidents did this, even though the one time they could think of is Barack Obama going to China in 2016. And it was almost an international insult that they didn't have the red carpet and the stairs prepared for him. It was seen as a backhand. So what does this, amongst everything else, tell you about the trajectory of this presidency, fledgling?
Not good.
Well, look, I thought his performance in Maui was so bad, he was so clearly out of it, that frankly, I think it's frightening. This is not about politics and scoring points. This is the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the world, and it's clear that at least half the time, he's just not there. I mean, month by month, his cognitive collapse is more and more obvious. The Associated Press just reported that 77% of all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, 77% now believe that Biden is too old to run for re-election. I suspect by next summer that number will be in the 90s, because once this starts, it's just going to get steadily worse. He's clearly in cognitive decline. He's clear, in fact, it makes me wonder who's making the real decisions at the White House. Because obviously Joe Biden is not. He's not capable of it.
And if that is accurate, and I think that if you just think about the trajectory that we have seen Joe Biden on, I mean, at one point he actually could cobble together an actual cohesive thought and a sentence. Even during the debates, he was moderately more capable than he is now. But if this decline continues, you fast forward a year from now, I mean, in other words, are they planning for his exit? Do they already have, Michelle lined up? Is Newsom ready to go? Because it's only bad from here. And are they going to, or are they planning to paper over that throughout the entire election season and into the next administration? It's kind of nuts.
Biden thing? Is this a chief of staff thing? Is this who is it?
Well, first of all, one of the nice things about cognitive dissonance is he may not know the number. and it may not occur to him that it matters, and he's just going on with his life. You know, he's back onto the beach. He's relaxing. He's doing some bicycling. He has a pretty decent life, and it doesn't occur to him that all these other things are piling up.
His kids are staying out of jail. He's got millions of dollars coming in from Hunter's art paintings and whatever else grift they're doing. It's just incredible. Look at it. It's a nice way to live.
Way that will be an absolute disaster for the Democratic Party. My personal guess is that the driving force behind the Biden administration is Barack Obama.
Bingo.
Obama is the only president
still in Washington
since Woodrow Wilson to stay in Washington. And in Wilson's case, he stayed because he'd had a severe stroke and he couldn't be moved. So the fact that Obama's here all the time, the fact that his staff literally permeates the Biden administration, and Obama's really, really smart. I mean, whatever Biden's problems are at being kind of slow and cognitively decaying, Obama doesn't have any of those problems. And if you watch the administration, it's much more an Obama administration than, say, the Joe Biden of 10 or 15 years ago. This is a very radical, very left-wing administration, deeply dedicated to policies that are close to crazy. Their electric car policy is a disaster. As President Trump said today, it's going to destroy at least 100,000 jobs and will achieve nothing in the long run. Their policies across the board, going at the idea that they might propose that Americans be limited to 2 beers a week. You know, this is the kind of petty nanny state interference that most Americans will find crazy.
The government will take care of you until you drop dead or they kill you, one or the other. So Newt, I think, is dead right about this, that they are being controlled by obviously people who are not Joe Biden and the Biden family. Obama sounds like a good guess. The question is that because, or is this indicative of their plan? Are they going to be running? Are they sending Michelle out there and doing the old Indiana Jones golden head swapperoo? We'll see. Of course, my friends, we will continue to cover. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing these videos with your friends. And thank you for joining us as we continue to cover these stories and more on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on this lovely Friday. So grateful you joined us. We covered some good ground today. Biden and his new impeachment war room. We'll see if the Republicans come up with one. Trump and his 2024 removal lawsuit dismissed. The lawsuit against him dismissed. Good news for Trump. But we'll see, I'm sure, another iteration of that. And of course, Trump filed a motion to sever his case in Georgia. Mark Meadows is still fighting to have this case removed. And that, I think, we'll probably hear about next week. So next week should be a good one. At some point, we'll decide whether Big Fanny is going to keep that case or not. But now, my friends, let's hear from you. Let's say hello to our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our amazing supporters on YouTube, our big friends over on Rumble, our friends on the X. We'll say hello to everybody. Of course, we'd love it if you joined us for our members-only after party. As soon as we wrap up here, we're going to hang out for a little bit longer. Members, don't forget, if you're a YouTube member or a Locals member, movie night is tomorrow. So V for Vendetta is on the menu. Watch that on your own time. We've got some discussion questions that we'll discuss tomorrow, and it's going to be a lot of fun. 6 p.m. Eastern time. We hope to see you over there. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. All right. And who do we have in the house sending in some very lovely support today? Thank you very much to Chris Saucier in the house. Or is it Saucier? Chris Saucier or Chris Saucier? I don't know. I like them both. But he says, am I the only one that's thinking that another revolution is beginning? Or when 20 happens again, is everyone just going to sit on their hands when 2020 happens again? Or is everyone just going to sit on their hands? Well, I mean, I think that people are getting engaged, certainly. I think political engagement, peaceful engagement, communal organization, focusing on your family, you know, volunteering if you can do it. All that type of stuff is going to be very important. But I certainly hope that we do not have a violent revolution or any political violence, because I don't think that is the right answer. And I think that will only result in more tyranny, unfortunately, if that does happen. So I'm hopeful that does not happen. I think that peace is the right approach. Winning with ideas, winning with hearts and minds is really the right approach. It's the long-term approach, and it's how we're going to have a long-lasting victory. So that's my take on it. But certainly I hope people are energized, and I hope people are, dragging other people to the polls with them and, donating what they can and speaking out when they can and doing what we can. But thanks, Chris. I appreciate that one. And we had another one come in. Let's see here. From our friends here, Catherine says, "Hi, Rob. I'm here. You may proceed." All right, everybody. So Catherine's here. We're going to start the show over. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. All right, just kidding. Hi, Catherine. Good to see you. Happy Friday. Patrick says, remember the 5th of November, which is the phrase that we'll see and hear a lot about tomorrow. Maybe I should have made that a question. Maybe we can make a rhyme for what? Make a rhyme for some event or something. All right. Formers here says, Rob, I've reached the end of my rope. I sent you a dono check July 2022. It still is open and uncashed. $100 check for transcripts. If you ever find it, just rip it up. Here's my substitute dono. You demand. Former sends a $99 tip in. Former. So I do have that check, by the way. I just have never cashed it. I'm pretty sure I have that. So when I first was, kind of getting started, although you sent it in July. I feel like you sent that a lot earlier than that. But, I just didn't want to cash it. I just kind of felt it like it's a cool memento. And like I've gotten some checks from some other people so that I haven't cashed. Some people will send me a $10 check or something. And it's not that I'm not appreciative of it. I just kind of like it. I just kind of like, and Former, yours was one of the first checks that I ever got. So I was like, this is a crazy thing. It was like a crazy experience for me to like have like an internet friend, just send a check of money in. And so I never wanted to cash it. I never wanted to cash it. I have it. It's somewhere around here. And I just wanted to hang on to it because it kind of made me feel good. So, but this also makes me feel good. So thank you for sending in the an actual cash transaction. But I appreciate it, Former. I appreciate you being here, man. And, I'm just grateful for you being here, for jumping in our community and being such a good member. So that's all. But thank you for sending that in. Very generous dono, very generous tip. I do remember the check, and I'm sure I have it. I have a big sort of stack, and I'm 99% sure it's in there. But I'll destroy it if you want me to destroy it. I'll do that too, and my heart will shatter into 1,000 pieces. But okay. Snuggle Struggle says, was watching the MI hoax, the Michigan hoax, Whitmer Fednapping entrapment trial going on. Radix Verum is being threatened with lawsuits. Are you what? For covering this trial. Public interest being undermined. Looks like a cover-up. For what? I think I saw one of her streams got taken down. Is that what this is about? I think she got a copyright issue. Is that still going on? I thought I saw that's still going on. Are they threatening to sue her? Okay, my friend. So I don't know what the situation is, but it doesn't sound appropriate in any way, shape, or form. And so I'm encouraging you to go over to Radix Verum, who's covering the Whitmer Fednapping trial. She's got a great YouTube channel. And we've spoken before a long time ago, but she's awesome and she does great work on this. So make sure you're following her. Radix Verum is being sued. I don't know what the story is. We're being threatened. And I'd encourage you to go support her. And I will go check her Twitter feed and see what's up. But thanks for the heads up, Snuggle Struggle. Very strange things going on. I don't know what could possibly be the basis for a legitimate lawsuit other than, something copyright related, but it's public, it's a public trial, right? It's a public forum. And I'm guessing that the courts pool the feeds so that no individual person has a claim on the feed because it's a pooled feed. Otherwise, everybody could just go set up their feeds in the courtroom. So I don't know what that's about, but thanks, Snuggle Struggle, for raising awareness. Shout out to our friend Radix Verum on YouTube. Make sure you're heading over there if you're interested in some legal analysis. Michael Swade is in the house. What's up, Michael? Says Amazon Prime Video has a watch party option where you can play a synced movie and chat with the audience while you stream. Racket sometimes does watch parties like that. Great time. That sounds interesting, Michael Swade. I've heard about something like that. I think, doesn't Twitch have something like that? Like if everybody has an Amazon account, you can also watch the movie, but you got to have an account, something like that. We're not going to do anything like that for tomorrow. So for tomorrow, watch the movie on your own time. And then we'll discuss it. Now, we may play some clips, like I might pull up a YouTube clip here or there or whatever, but we'll do a post-movie discussion in the after party. But that's interesting to know, Michael Swade. Yeah, that's interesting. All right. So here's one from Voice of the People. Says, I noticed that court listener no longer has Pezzola's motion for a mistrial up. Interestingly, anything that talks about the Fed's informants has been removed. Were they sealed? That's a good question, Voice. I'm not sure about it. The other, I'm not sure if they were sealed or what happened with that motion. So you got to be a little careful with court listener. Court listener is, it's not an official website. So it is crawling. Basically, it's crawling what a lot of people are crawling. I mean, it's a public website, obviously, but it's not like a government website, I guess is the right way to say it. So sometimes what I'll find is that you can find the same case referenced on Court Listener, but it will be like you can search for the same case number and find multiple case filings, multiple cases with many case filings. So you might be running into something like that. If you're absolutely looking for it, I'm sure you could reach out to the defense team and they'll file it for you or send it to you. But it may just be a court listener glitch. But I don't know if they were sealed or not. I can't imagine why they would be sealed after the fact. Unless, well, maybe they would be. Anyways, yeah, good question, Voice. And thanks for the dono, my friend. S.R. Dempsey. What's up, S.R.? This is a very nice one. Thank you. Says, in Fannie's submission, it stated no evidence from the defense could be accepted within 10 days from the start of trial. Right, the 10-day rule applied to the defense, meaning they had to make their disclosures prior to the 10 days or else they could not make their disclosures. But the 10-day requirement for Fannie was waived because the defense asked for a speedy trial and that makes the government have to hurry. And so they don't need to comply with the 10-day rule, but the defense does. So if a witness came forward day 9 or during the trial that obliterates her case, it can't be presented. How can this be lawful? Well, that's an age-old question there, S.R. Dempsey. It's a great one. It's about notice. It's really about notice and the ability to prepare for your defense or for your prosecution. Yeah, oftentimes, like the things you see in the movie about a witness popping up out of nowhere and they throw them on the stand and they're like, obliterate the whole case. That's not really reality, right? All the witnesses are disclosed. All the investigation is done. If you have last minute witnesses, the other side can say, we're not prepared for them. We didn't have a chance to interview them. We couldn't know anything about them. And so you cannot use them, which means, often in a case like this, practically speaking, like if something like this were to happen, they would bend the rules for that. And we actually read through that in this segment. We saw that Fannie was citing cases that she said they said things that they didn't say. She said that they said that the court could not modify the timelines, more or less. And the case law that she cited said that, yes, they could. So in other words, if the government finds that there are extenuating circumstances that justify the maneuvering of the 10 days, then the judge might say, okay, a day 9 disclosure was the only thing that could happen, and you're not prejudiced, and you have time in your 9 days to interview that person and get ready. So 9 days is allowed, or 2 days is allowed if you can get up to speed. But there are other situations where that's not the case. Like we've been covering also on our locals and members streams, George Allen Kelly. And they're in a very precarious position right now where the defense is demanding a speedy trial, but the defense may not have their expert, has not been disclosed in time, essentially. So they may not be able to use them if the trial happens on time. So like the timing is often a part of the game. And the rules are there for a reason. So the other side has a fair opportunity to do their investigation and their due diligence, because otherwise you'd have people dropping off evidence like 2 days before trial. And the other side would say, I didn't have enough time. So they say 10 days, as long as it's in before 10 days, you're good. But if it comes late, you better have a really, really good reason. And the judge can then, modify that a bit. So Fannie's trying to have it both ways. The question, how can this be lawful? How can her framing of it be lawful? I don't think it is. And I think that the defense team is going to have a lot of fun with it. So I can't wait to see those filings. Thank you, SR. Very nice one coming in. Appreciate the support. Steve Lee, been a member for 6 months. Woo, 6 months. That's a good time, man. Steve, thanks for being here. Says, have a great weekend. Tap that like button. And we're going to be back here tomorrow, Steve, for our members only morning stream, and we'll have fun with that tomorrow. Actually, yeah, what's tomorrow? Well, I think we'll probably do a short members-only morning stream tomorrow and then do our after party later. I think we'll do that. We've got First Amendment says, thank you for your dedication to the Constitution and informing the people who love America. The new logo looks great. Thank you, First Amendment. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah. And we're excited about it. We've got hats right around the corner, shirts coming out right after that. We've got some sandals ready to go, and it's going to be fun. And thank you for being here. Thank you for the very nice dono. First Amendment over on Locals. Ben Dover's in the house. Says, Ben Dover bringing in 10 new members. Thank you, Glenn. Glenn Croy's coming in. Thank you, Ben Dover, for bringing in Glenn. Ben's bringing in Glenn. Thank you, Ben. Glenn, G-Men, Scott P, Linda G, Matt S, Gabe B, Luke, Big Boy Blue, Riley Leifson, Vicky O, all coming in courtesy of our friend Ben Dover in the house. Thank you, Ben. We got Jack White became a supporter. Welcome aboard, Jack. We will see you. Hey, if you're a YouTube member and you want to join us for the after party, grab the Telegram link. Navigate over to the community section on YouTube. Scroll down a bit. Join us on Telegram. We've got Dolphin Fan, who is the man, bringing in CCR. We got Will Call Magic. I'd Rather Be Skiing is joining us. Tom Seattle, Alias, all coming in thanks to Dolphin Fan, who is the man. Thank you, Dolphin. Facts Matter. Wow, Facts. Very nice of you. Look at this one. Facts Matter, bringing in 20 new members. Woo! We got Dark and Snyder, Big D on 25. We got Donna Greathouse, Joanne, an owl, Deepwood, Jason C, Michael W, Tammy, Jerry, Sue, Rhonda C, Baby Cakes in the house, Jordan S, Grimlock, Jason W, Andy H, Jason Allen, Miss Rocket Softball, and another one from Robin Wareham in the house. Man, thank you so much. Facts Matter for bringing in 20, not 5, 20. I just read them. 20 new members in the house. Amazing. Thank you, Facts. Very generous. And look at this really handsome fella up in the profile pic. Eddie Oliver says, what? Arizona's letting Trump on the ballot? Arizona never does anything right. How is this possible? One good decision still does not make you Texas. That's from Eddie Oliver. He's from the great state of Texas. And yeah, sometimes Arizona's goofy. Arizona's been extra goofy. It's hard for me to defend Arizona now, especially since we're like a blue state that doesn't know how to run elections, for crying out loud. Good to see you, Eddie. Hopefully you're having a beautiful weekend. Linda Faye's in the house. Welcome, Linda. Welcome as a supporter. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for our members only movie stream. We got Aaron Goodwin's here. Says both impeachment inquiry and legislative purpose are valid reasons for congressional subpoenas. The legislature that requires an attorney an attorney general to comply. So, okay, so send one over to the attorney general, a subpoena, and he's got to show up to talk about it. And I think, Aaron, you're probably also commenting on what we talked about yesterday, which was the response from Merrick Garland that the congressional subpoenas for the FBI and the IRS people were not valid. So you're saying, okay, forget those. We'll just send them right up to Merrick Garland. And as part of an impeachment inquiry, they've got to respond to those. Otherwise, they can be held in contempt, and there's no difficulty debating about the legitimacy of those subpoenas. Love it. Good to see you, Aaron. Thank you. Salty Sarge says Obama gave access to all this grift after he agreed not to run against Hillary. From the same Comer interview. Really? I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So Biden was going to sit one out, turn it over to Hillary. Biden was going to get rich. And then Hillary lost. So Joe Biden became the heir apparent because that's who Obama wanted in to continue on his control. We have this one from Pinochet's Helicopter Tours. Says Congress knows darn well that if they just ask the question, Who else was selling influence? The whole thing blows up and they'll turn on each other. Well, yeah, like a series of dominoes. It's like Jenga. The whole thing gets busted. FBI's in on it. You've got, all the households are probably all palling around in Ukraine, making millions, grifting off the American taxpayer. Yeah, here's this one. Yeah, this is how I feel when the when the president's talking. Oh gosh, that's our president talking? Oh gosh. Yeah, it's brutal when you hear the guy. It's really hard to listen to. Is that from Geegum? It is. Thank you, Geegum, our meme smith in the house. That's how I feel. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I think most of the world feels, right? So not good. Fred says, America makes Sodom and Gomorrah look like a convent. Well, that's one way to put it. Yes, that's a lot of colorful imagery there, isn't it, Fred? Certainly some streets do at certain times. We've got Simone. Welcome aboard, Simone, in the house. Thank you for joining as a member. Very much appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. RAS Illusion, been a member for 1 month. Thank you, RAS Illusion. First month's the hardest month. Glad you made it. Says, don't fix what ain't broken. You're doing great. Thank you, RAS. I appreciate it. Love the support. And I appreciate you joining us today. We got Randy Brandel over on Locals. What's up, Randy? It's good to see you. It feels like a new name, yeah? Says, I can't wait to watch Trump ask Big Mike. So how long you been a woman? Please, God, let that happen. Great job as always, Rob. Yeah, kind of those linebacker shoulders. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's a lot of comments. A lot of places we could go on that one. From Randy Brandel, would be funny. Hopefully we get to see a nice debate up there between those two. Thank you, Randy. Good to see you. We've got another one from John Allen. What's up, John? Modding down the fort for us. Says, Rob, another great week with you at the helm. We appreciate all the great stream and everything that you do. You're the best, my friend. Thank you, John. Says, also, shout out to the mods who are working hard to make things run. Shout out to the mods. And prayers for Bonnie and Jen. Wishing you a very happy and good week. Prayers from John Allen, modding down the fort. Thank you very much to John. We had, oh my goodness, 50 membos coming in from John McGarvey. John, you are such an amazing dude. Thank you for doing that. Man, Facts Matters in the house. John McGarvey's in the house. We got a lot of donos coming in. How amazing. All right, let's say hello to 50 new people coming in. We got Eric C., Michael J., Pay Pigs here, Salty Indignation, Barbecue Sauce, The Lost 10mm Socket. Oh man, it's hard to find that one too. That one's always gone. Gabriel Garcia subscribes to Good Logic. Joe Neerman, he's the man. Shout out to Joe. All the Marbles, Loki's here, Tans, Curtis C., Redeemed Rogue Molecules. Ace of Spades in the house. We got Tina, we got Napoleon, Lady Trisha Lawyer. Shout out to Lady Trisha. We got David N., Bridget, Julie Girl. We got Matt T, Guitar Gal, Nath Air, Joshua S, Glenn W, Sejong the Great, Narsos, Omar, James, Megan, Rebuild and Flip. We got Carolyn's here, Alifly, Tyler, Pilar, Robin, Alex, Blue Bella, Nick. Woo! We got Carrie, Frosted, Michael, Corey, Dyslexic Chick in the Sticks. In the house, Sam, Melsbeth, Mike B, Fuzzy Socks, and we've got HMLA Pilot all coming in courtesy of our friend John McGarvey in the house. Whew! That's a lot of membos. Thank you, John. And thank you for bringing them in. Welcome aboard, everybody. Hopefully you join us on the after party, which is where you can grab the Telegram link and join us there. But we're going to have a movie night tomorrow, and John's bringing in a bunch of new friends to join us. So, new friends who are joining us. John has been a big help in organizing movie night. We're grateful to John. And so make sure you're joining us. Watch the movie V for Vendetta. I was going to say V for Vienticus, but that's not the movie, I think. Probably not. Maybe not yet. But V for Vendetta is the movie we're watching tomorrow. And so new members, if you haven't seen it, watch it. And our YouTube friends, I'm going to post the discussion questions over for members only on the forum too. And so we'll see you over there. Thanks again, John, and everybody else who's bringing in our members. Facts, I know you brought in 22. It's like amazing. You guys are awesome. We've got this one. Who else is here? Michael Allen Hughes says, stay safe this weekend, my friends. Don't drink and drive. Always good advice. Always good advice. And just, this is a little defense attorney PSA. These weekends, they do what are called saturation patrols, okay? So they all get together and all the cops just plan on setting up shop for the whole weekend, essentially. Everybody gets overtime and they all just do these DUI task forces, at least in the bigger cities. So be extra, extra careful. They'll pop you for anything. Wide right turns, license plate, light out, doesn't matter. Ray K, 19 months as a member. Ray K, oh my goodness. This is like what? 2 point something babies. That's a lot. We got, thank you, Ray K, says, when tyranny becomes law, resistance becomes duty. Yeah, and I think that there are many ways to do that, and some are more fruitful than others. But Ray K, thanks for being a member for 19 months. Very cool. Thank you for that. We got MAGA Hat Stays is over here on Locals. What's up, MAGA Hat Stays? Nice to see you. Welcome. Says, do you know anything about the New York Trump business case where Letitia wants to get the judgment and fine Trump $250 million for allegedly overstating for loans that were all paid back on time, so there are no victims? So not that particular case. I know there was some headline. I don't know the specifics on that most recent one. When I think of the New York Trump business case, I think of the Alvin Bragg case. I know, so Letitia James is also in New York. She's the New York Attorney General. When I think of the business case, I think of the Alvin Bragg criminal prosecution. But there was, Letitia's also saying that Trump overinflated his assets. And I think she wants civil damages from him. And I don't know the updates on that one. But MAGA Hat, maybe let's follow back up on that tomorrow on our after, or even during the after party. Maybe we can take a look at that. But thanks for the heads up on that one. Wells says, third time posting this. I blame your busy schedule, no bad blood. It's the first time I've seen it, Wells. Did you submit it as a super chat? First time I've seen it. Says, slow news day. Any chance you can go through Moderna versus Vivek Ramaswamy subsidiary patenting it out at court for the nanolipid tech off the vax, mayhaps? Probably not, if I can be honest about it, because it sounds like a very technical pharmaceutical lawsuit. Like a patenting lawsuit. I don't know how interesting that would be, but we can take a look at it. So let's take a look at it during the after party, Wells. We've got, I see the link here. We got Jekyll says, here's a tip for you. Thank you, Jekyll. I appreciate that one, my friend. Thank you for being over on Locals. Salty says, peace, love, and understanding is the best way to go. In France, they eliminated their enemies. In the United States, we give them amnesty. We gave them amnesty and we rebuilt together. I think that is the right way to go. Let's win people over, wake them up, bring them on in, and we'll be stronger for it. We got Radicy says 6 months is 2/3 of a baby. You're right. I had trouble doing the math in my head. 2/3 is the right number. Yeah. It's 2/3 of a baby. We're almost there. We got Wells says, is bringing in membos something only people logged into YouTube can do? How does this work? I see no mass membos button in Locals, although I did gift a single membo to a single person on Locals before. Please elaborate. Yeah, so on YouTube, you can just purchase memberships on YouTube, and they just automatically will just divvy them out like a slot machine on YouTube. I don't think Locals has any option for that, but you can gift individual membos over on Locals. And thanks, Wells, for asking about it both ways. And thanks for being so supportive and for even asking about bringing in new membos. But yes, YouTube has it built in there, however it works. Voice says, found it on Document Cloud. Just remembered that's a thing. Yeah, Document Cloud's a nice place. I check it sometimes. I pull documents from there. John, welcome, John, as a supporter on YouTube as a supporter. John S. is in the house. Thank you, John. Welcome aboard. We'll see you on our movie night. Salty's here. Says Comer also wants Obama's alias emails from the librarian, but all they give is blacked out pages. What are they using aliases for? It's to hide from public scrutiny. There are official rules about that, but they're all liars and hiding their data. But they charge Trump for it all. We got Bruce Rice, been a member for 11 months. That is a baby and an infant tied into one. Good to see you, Bruce. Thanks for being here, Bruce. Greetings from Iowa MAGA in the house. Shout out to our friends in Iowa. Shout out to our friends in Iowa. We got Linda over on Rumble. No, this is over on Locals. Says on YouTube. Says, hey you, Linda Faye. Thank you, Linda. Nice to see you. Facts Matter says, John McGarvey ain't no pants on Fridays. Gifts galore from Facts Matter. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Facts. And thank you, John, for bringing in all those lovely membos. Debbie Marie says, what's that now? 100 new members? Nice going. And what a gift, John. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably in that ballpark. Very awesome. Very awesome. Very fun. And it's a great time to bring in new membos because we got movie night. We got Wims is here. Says, I'm convinced half the reason this transgender ideology is being pushed is to prepare us for Michael Obama. Oh, man. That is a long, yeah, that's a big long strategy, long-term strategy. Oh my gosh. There's weird stuff coming out about Obama, about his fantasies with men. And Tucker said that some crackhead said that they were sleeping together. And Big Mike has the shoulders of, I think, a linebacker. So I don't know what we're going to see. It's playing the long game. You know what I mean? Oh, gross. All right. Thanks, Wims. We got Carrie Cakes is a new member as a shout out member over on YouTube. Welcome, Carrie. We'll see you tomorrow for the party, for our movie night. Don't Be Hatin' says, I don't feel like our founding fathers would approve of the 14th Amendment, Section 3. Weren't they basically insurrectionists? Yeah, pretty much, according to the British. I just looked at it and saw the last line. Does that mean Congress can override it? Yes, so that does mean that. Yeah, well, this is a great question because they're saying, this is a great question, and thank you for highlighting this and clipping it. 14th Amendment, Section 3. Anyone who shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion shall not be eligible to hold office. No person shall be elected if they've engaged in insurrection. But Congress may remove the disability by 2/3 vote of each house. So House 2/3, Senate 2/3. But that would presume that the disability has been applied, right? Like, how does the disability become applied? Somebody has to do something. Then Congress can remove it. But the whack jobs like Ludwig and like Florida Man and like the other Lawrence Tribe lawyer, they say that it's self-executing. So that means that, so that they have to just like vote on this to remove a disability that is already on there, that nobody put on there, and nobody's actually executing yet. So then Congress would have to go remove it from all the various secretaries of state. Like, it doesn't make any sense. They're just making it up. It's not a legitimate theory. But neither are these criminal prosecutions. And they're still running with those hog wild. V's here. V for Vientikis. He says, not yet. Good one. Yeah, not yet, V. I can see it, V. I can see you with your dueling swords. Flipping out there. Doing backflips all over the subway. All right, Vientikis. I can't wait to watch the movie. Should be fun. All right. And so that, my friends, thank you for all the very generous support over on the YouTubes, the Rumbles, the Locals, and all across the fruited plain of America. It's great. I'm happy to see everybody. Russell Warren, Dog Digger. We got Dance Masters over on Rumble. I see Salty Sarge. Loesch is over there. A job well done. It is good to see everybody. Let's see what's happening over on X before we go over to our after party with our members on Locals and our YouTube friends on Telegram. Let's see what's happening on the X. What is here? 9 people are watching. All right, everybody, don't panic. Don't freak out. Act like you've been here before. We're like 1 away from 10. Oh my gosh, don't blow it. Hopefully it doesn't change. Oh my gosh. Okay, be normal, Rob. Act normal. All right. Vientika says, any state that removes Trump from the ballot under the idea that it's automatic will have precedent to remove any Second Amendment restrictions. Yeah, they can do whatever they want. It's a good point, V. Where else does that happen? Yeah. Weissman, why won't they believe our lies? Very frustrated. Why won't they believe our lies? Why don't they think we're legitimate? Good question, V. Here, this one came in from Toenail Cupcake. So again, an officer has more immunity than a president? If you're on the left and you hate Trump, everybody has more immunity than the president. Fred Petamonte wants John McGarvey's phone number. Says, I'm broke. Fred says, Christina, whose name is Radix Verum, besides being beautiful, knows more about Whitmer than anyone. She's making a documentary out of it. All right, another shout out to Radix Verum over there. And I encourage you to go give her a follow. Raven says, if televised, it will be of the utmost importance that lawyers like you, Joe Logic, Ricada, live stream with commentary. Oh, gosh. Yeah, if it's televised. I'm not sure that it will be. I think it's probably going to get removed. I mean, I'd love for it to be televised, but I'm not so sure that it's going to be. Raven says, I just got triggered when you said subject matter jurisdiction because we had some flashbacks to 2020. Yeah. Esands says, Rob, I watch your show almost every day in Ireland. Shout out to our friends in Ireland. Man, I love that. It blows my mind every time. I would love to come visit someday. Love the way you explain the content and the detail you go into. Question, when does the statute of limitations clock start counting on the Biden crime family? Is it when the crime was committed or when it was discovered? So it depends, really, like everything in the law. It depends on the statute. It depends on the crime. So most times the crime is discussed. So like, here's an example. Most crimes start from the day that the crime happened as a general matter. But sometimes, like, for example, like in sexual assault crimes, right? Like they don't know the person right away. And so the actual discovery of the crime and the person who is the subject of the crime is, the crime may have committed at a certain time, but it might take 25 years to find that person, right? So what happens if 35 years later they discover who that is? There's some arguments that the statute of limitations occurs when the crime was discovered. Like there are some things that will toll the statute. And so I don't know specifically like what crimes you're talking about, but generally the general rule is it's when the crime is committed, is when when the crime is charged, more specifically, and when it happens. So like filing date, right? Like the crime could be filed, it has to be filed within a certain period of time. It's a complicated question. To answer more specifically about Joe Biden, it's also been pushed out. Okay, so like there's been tollings of the statute of limitations when the Biden lawyers got involved. So like they would toll it. So it depends on the actual crime and the actual statute you're using and everything that was involved in it. So I can't give you a hard date on it, but it's a great question. And Tricky-ish says, was Kemp referring to the Satanic Bible? I have no idea. I sure as heck hope not. Silicon Valley Reject is over there with some good memes over on the X. And so certainly go check that out, my friends, on the X. But that is about it for us over there. And so we're going to wrap it up and leave it there. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We would love to see you there. We will be there tomorrow for our members only morning stream in the Saturday mornings. And we're coming back for our movie night tomorrow night. We also want to invite you to check out our new website, robertgovea.com, where you can get the daily reports and check out the latest things that we're covering over there, as well as get access to this mind map and everything that is included inside this mind map. Don't forget to check out our friends at fieldofgreens.com, where you can get your real organic superfood at fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. Big thanks and shout outs to our mods and our meme smiths. Vienticus Prime, K Beans in the house, Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Beyond Geo. We got Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, and John McGarvey, all modding down the fort for us. We appreciate you. Also, shout out to our friend Sleepy Dog Lee, Geegum for the memes, and our friend Nathan over on Locals. We appreciate everybody. Thank you for joining us and being a part of this lovely week. We've got a fresh new month ahead. It is September. It is the 1st. And we've got a lovely long weekend ahead. We got a couple of tips that came in that I don't want to miss before we wrap it up. We got Lori Gale became a supporter. Lori, welcome aboard. It'll be fun to see you tomorrow. Hopefully we see you on the movie night. I'm going to post those questions here in a bit. We also had this one from Steven, says, arrest Fannie. She's attempting to deny constitutional rights under the color of law. Yeah, I think there's good argument for that. And at some point, I think it's going to be curious to see if we have some standing issues that pop up and some actual litigation around that. Like, they're trying to sue Trump to keep him off the ballot. Can some party sue Fannie for election interference because she's actually impacting Trump at an electoral level? I don't know. We'll see. MAGA Hat Stays says, she says she knows she will get a conviction, but it is a civil case. Also, she's seeking summary judgment. Isn't that unusual? Well, she's not that bright is the problem. Letitia James is just not that intelligent. So yeah, a conviction for a civil case is not appropriate. She probably means a judgment, which is why she's seeking summary judgment. So she's living in fantasy land, okay? Her whole existence is based around prosecuting Trump. And she just wants it, she really wants it to be a crime, but she's not a prosecutor, so she can't have it. MAGA Hat Stays in the house, says, P.S. Donald Trump did nothing wrong. Donald Trump did nothing wrong. From MAGA Hat Stays. Good to see you. And so that, my friends, was the amazing support. Thank you so much for sending that in. YouTube, Rumble, Locals, VX. I appreciate everybody for joining us. But that is going to be it for us on this lovely day. We are planning a Monday show, so I'm planning on having a regular schedule on Monday because 1 week from today, the following Friday, I may take that day off to go to the Genius Network event, which is happening here that weekend. So we're planning on being here Monday. We definitely have movie night tomorrow. And so we're going to be back on Monday to get into it all again. There's going to be a lot to attend to next week. We know Congress is coming back soon in September. And so, my friends, I hope that you, until then, have yourselves a very beautiful weekend. Get outside, unplug from some of these politics for a bit. Get some of that vitamin D, the sunshine. Spend time with friends and family and recharge those energy batteries a bit. Because next week, we're going to be back here and we're going to do it all again. And I need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye, everybody.